Welcome, legends, to another live stream. Well, guys, Bitcoin has seen a great pump today. Just in general, Bitcoin has been making beautiful structure on the 4 hour. So, honestly, you guys, right now, you guys know that I have been quite bearish for quite some time. As soon as my lower high on the 4 hour trend was broken, my opinion changed quite a bit. I'm still not a total moon boy. There is a couple of my big, very serious red flags that I was warning about for months. There was a couple things that have been invalidated, which is great, but I still have a couple concerns as well. So I want to go into all of that. I just want to start right now on the 4 hour. So I actually have to change a couple of things here because we have recently broke higher, right? Approximately 8 hours, well, almost, or 11 hours ago or so. We did actually break some structure here. So notice that I'm actually just going to move this higher high up to here because we have obviously set a higher high, right? We had this structure here, high, higher high. That means the lowest point between the two is going to be our confirmed higher low. So we're going to call it that guy right here. And I am going to change my fib. I will pull a new fib from our higher low up to our higher high. And we now have something like this. So as far as Stuber fibs go on the 4 hour, oh, sorry, I actually have to change the bigger one as well because this has obviously gone higher. And a lot of you guys will know, I even posted about this in Pro Signals last week, I believe it was, that I was hoping to see some sort of a pullback down to these fibs. Guys, I want to be clear about something. That does not mean we're going back down to these levels. It does not mean that, I'm shorting down to that level, expecting that as a target kind of a thing. This is just as far as looking for an ideal setup. If we do get that pullback to that level, that's just a classic Stuber fib, and it's a very large one on a large time frame. I would absolutely be looking for longs at that point on smaller time frames, looking to find some sort of a scalp entry where I can hopefully catch a swing to the upside from there. As it stands right now, I mean, as with swing trades, we're kind of in a tricky spot. I don't want to long into this breakout because I just personally don't like playing breakouts all that much. I like looking for those pullbacks, and now that we have this structure here, we do have this micro Stuber fib, right? Oh God, I cannot click on that. Let me just get that. So yeah, we do have this. As far as the micro trend on the 4 hour, the immediate trend, since we have that higher high and that higher low, we have this confirmed support now, basically. That doesn't mean it has to hold, but as far as looking for a swing setup on the 4 hour, I would only be interested in longs if we come back down to these levels, and that would be down around, call it 93.9 down towards 93.2, and then, well, double bottom kind of, or false break area would kind of go from 92.7 down towards, call it 92. Any below 92, at that point we have to consider the possibility that there may be a larger downswing starting, because structure on the 4 hour would then actually be invalidated, right? We'd be losing our uptrend because we have that higher low there. So that's basically from a bullish perspective on the 4 hour. Things are great, guys. I can't lie about that. For the perma bear that a lot of you guys know me as, I can't say anything bad about the 4 hour right now. It still looks good. We still have an uptrend. Just understand that with new structure like this, it's very common to see a break in structure like this and get a retest. That's the whole reasoning behind my Stuber fib setups, right? It doesn't mean it has to happen. We could just absolutely blast to the upside from here. I'm just not as interested in it unless we get that proper pullback. So that's kind of the immediate structure on the 4 hour. Like I said, we lose that, then we can start considering the possibility that we are going to retest the swing. If we lose the micro uptrend, I would be considering the possibility that we're retesting the entire trend, which would be back down. That would be down from basically 79.7 down towards 77.2. And then our lows are about 74.6, with invalidation being actually below 71. So obviously with a big range like this, the targets are obviously far away, just like invalidations are far away. That's a massive swing, you guys. If we end up getting this, let's say we test the 786 and we get the Stuber fib, that's a nice 17% move to the upside. Not to mention if we pull deeper into these pockets and hit extra, or additional laddered entries. Let's say we got our average entry somewhere in there, you can be looking at more like a 20% move to the upside. Or if you want to play it safe and you want to wait for some sort of a reaction, you could always set an alert on this support trend line down here and wait to see what happens if it gets tested, right? If we end up pulling all the way back, you know, if we get some sort of a wick below, but we start closing lower time frame structure back above that, reclaiming that support, at that point, I think it's very possible that we end up starting to get our move to the upside, and playing that as a failed break. Stop loss would likely be very similar to a Stuber setup, but you're at least waiting for that confirmation of testing that line at that point, getting your invalidation a little bit tighter. You know, these are all just ways that we can think about playing the 4 hour as far as looking for bullish setups, right? Something else to consider if we were looking for some sort of a swing short on this structure, how we currently have it here. You know, looking for a 4 hour short, like, yeah, I'm in shorts on the 5-minute chart, but looking for a proper 4 hour one, I would want to see us lose that higher low structure down around, call it basically breaking below 92K. And from there, I would want to get a retest of, well, you guys guessed it, I assume, but some sort of a Stuber fib like that if we end up breaking structure, right? As it stands right now, you're kind of guessing at a top as far as, you know, swinging at a short right now. It's very much so the opposite of catching a falling knife, right? We basically have the opposite. Now you're probably asking, well, Stu, you just mentioned that you're in some shorts. Yes, that's because I just kind of have a strong gut feeling about the monthly chart. I have very strong concerns about this still. So again, the 4 hour, I'm still totally fine with the 4 hour chart, you guys. But as I zoom out, that's where I kind of have the issues. But it's nice to see that the lower time frames have at least flipped bullish. So like I said, I'm not a perma bear anymore. But I do still have these red flags that, hey, you know what? We did lose these order blocks on the monthly. That's been a very large signal in the past. Anytime that we've had that sort of structure break on the monthly, it has been a total change in market momentum, right? And same with the MDX Wave Master. Every time we've got a cross on this indicator, it has been a perfect reversal. Now, does that mean that it has to happen again? Absolutely not. But it's something that I can't completely ignore. It's just that I'm not going to blindly start longing into resistance looking for a swing trade, right? I am totally open to the idea of catching a scalp long and catching some sort of a runner. But since I never did catch a proper swing long earlier, I just, you know, I don't want to just blindly long, as especially being I use higher leverage in general. It's just not a good time for me to be longing into resistance, right? Yeah, Zeus, I keep saying I'm not a perma bear, like I'm trying to convince myself. Maybe there is something to that. Honestly, a lot of what I say in my streams, I get quite repetitive with certain things that I'm looking at far in advance, because the more I say something, the more it's going to stick in my head. And if I need to convince myself not to be a perma bear because I see signals like this, then yeah, you might not be far off with that. But that is funny. So either way, guys, you know, we could reclaim this support. That's the thing. If we end up reclaiming this box and, you know, we start, especially if we end up breaking the highs, then yeah, we obviously break structure unless it's some sort of a swing fail again. That could be catastrophic to the, to this cycle. But as far as how it looks, if we could reclaim that, that would be a great start at least. But just notice that I know not everything has to repeat, right? But, last market cycle, when we broke that kind of structure, we very much so did exactly what we're doing today. We ended up coming back up after we broke this block here. We came back up, we closed some green candles, we got even a little bit above that block, but then we ended up re-losing it, retesting that level, and then absolutely getting shit on. So right now, this is just a big concern of mine. And so that's basically, I saw that it looked like we were running out of momentum on the shorter time frames, just that we got this little break here. Not even, this is very micro analyzing, guys, but I was really just aiming at this being some sort of a failed break out of this box. So I was willing to take a stab at it again here, as it looked like we were kind of doing some sort of a double top, right? And as well, the RSI, we were getting a bit of a bearish divergence that caught my eye. So I was willing to pull the trigger on a small short. But honestly, guys, like I said, I've already updated my stop losses to break even. And I have actually closed, I've closed a third of my position already, basically, as we retested this level, just in case we would have found support here. I was just treating it like a bit of a scalp, because like I said, I honestly don't have a ton of faith in my shorts right now either. I'm willing to take them just in case my theories about this box are correct, but that doesn't mean that it has to happen. So I'm just protecting myself right now, because like I said, I never got into a nice swing from the lows unless we get that retest I'm looking for. But that's fine. That's, you know, that's just sticking to my plan, really. I was waiting for that structure break followed by a pullback. We'll see if we end up getting it. But as it stands right now, so this yellow box is that monthly order block, right? So the fact that we're having a hard time holding it as support, if we get some sort of a harsh rejection here in the next little bit, that could be devastating. We could see a massive sell-off starting, but we are going to have to see, you guys. This is all theoretical. Like I said, as far as the midterm and the long term, I have mixed reviews right now. I totally see reasons to be bullish, because there's things, you know, even the fact that on the weekly, you know, we broke my bearish divergence on the RSI, for example. That was another big red flag that was lifted for me. So it is nice to see that. One huge concern I now have on the weekly, and this would take probably 2 or 3 weeks if I were to guess. If I were a betting man, and I definitely am, I would say it would take, you know, in the next 2 to 3 weeks for something potentially to set up, would be a very similar divergence, but on a much larger scale, basically. If we end up seeing the price basically anywhere from the 786, call it anywhere from a Stuber fib to a double top territory on the weekly, and we end up getting some sort of a divergence, let's say something like this. Again, this is all very theoretical at this point. This is just trying to plan ahead. But if we get something like that, and it looks like the RSI is starting to get a little bit of a rejection right as the price is trading into resistance, you know, after losing this whole range on the weekly. I mean, if this were a 5-minute chart, you guys, this would be a typical Stuber fib that I'd be shorting. So that, you know, if we get that divergence again, it would be very similar price action to how I felt at this level. And yeah, that's basically when we were trading, we were actually down here, and I was calling for, you know, watch for this divergence. If we get up towards double top territory, we see the RSI starting to get rejected at that 70 level. That led to us getting a 30% correction, right? So a very serious trade setup. And if we get that, but on a larger scale here on the RSI, I'm going to have big concerns again, because that would be then lining up with how the monthly is looking like shit. But as I said, this has to play out yet. This is not in the charts yet. This is just something to look ahead towards, basically. So yeah, the 4 hour, I can even bring up, I wanted to bring up the Trendmaster indicator. That was another thing where we found support, where we've basically, since this buy signal down here, I didn't take it all too serious on its own because it was a lower buy signal. But at this point, here's another thing. Obviously, when we do end up reversing this trend a little bit and getting some sort of a retracement, we're going to get a sell signal eventually. But at this point, it will be a higher sell signal. So if we quickly flip that back to a buy trend, we get a much higher buy signal. That will be a very strong sign of confidence for me. That would be looking like a very large shift in trend, in my opinion. So we're going to have to see what happens with that too, right? Let's see, does the ALGO Master have anything? No, so it had a Stuber fib laid out from when we topped out here, but we've obviously broke that, so that's not even valid anymore. Liquidations, we also have that high leverage liquidation band as well. There we go. Just wanted to clean things up a little bit. Yeah, notice that where we found support, right off that high leverage liquidation band. Beautiful support there. So to see a bounce off that, not too surprising. But, you know, that's another thing that could line up. We're going to have to see. But that may give us good confluence around. Actually, it is a little bit higher than the Stuber fib there as well. So just some things to watch for, right? As far as... so here's something interesting. a lot of the high leverage liquidations are starting to be to the downside. Notice that we have grabbed a whole bunch of that liquidity to the upside. And actually, when we were trading like way down at these levels, I remember I was talking about some liquidity that was way up here. We've obviously, well, so far, we've grabbed everything that's there so far. And we are starting to see a lot of liquidation pockets forming below us. And notice they kind of stop right down around the 886. So does it make sense that we could end up getting that swing retest? Yeah, you know, if we get it, I'm going to be a buyer at these levels down here. But if we don't get it, then I'm just going to basically continue playing the trend as we get it from here. Potential 12-hour bearish div. Interesting. I never look at the 12-hour, but I will. Let me just reload to how I had this chart before. Let me bring up 12-hour. You say that is interesting. I'm also just going to remove everything. So same thing on the 12-hour, right? We did actually break some structure here. We obviously broke above this high and actually got that candle body close above it too. That is nice to see. Where are we at now? We obviously broke the downtrend because same thing as the 4-hour, right? We had our lower high at this level, obviously broke that, and now we have our series of higher highs, higher low, higher high, higher low. So until that trend breaks, it is what it is. All the time frames, they still are holding their uptrend other than when we zoom way out to the weekly and monthly, basically. What else can I see here? You know, there's starting to be some red flags, but again, you know, when divergences like this, and you know, we got a nice strong reversal, like an overextended reversal signal on the Wave Master at these levels, but we actually broke above it. You know, that's showing quite a bit of strength in my opinion. We do have that bearish divergence on the RSI. That is definitely something to consider, but it's not the ideal one that I look for, unless you've it looks very similar. But when I like to play that type of a setup, I don't really want to see it break higher like that. So the divergence is there. And, you know, if we keep diverging, yeah, eventually it's going to catch up and we can crash to the downside. That's just not something that I've back tested myself. Whereas, you know, this trade setup that I was laying out on the weekly, for example, that's one that I back tested quite vigorously years ago. When I first started trading, basically in my first year, that double top with that exact bearish divergence, you know, that's something that I have very extensively back tested, and it has been my highest percent hit rate, basically, as far as any strategy that I trade. And that's exactly why I was bearish back here. And a lot of people say, well, Stu, you were wrong because we traded back up to the upside. Yeah, but you know what? I played 4 swings or 3 swings or whatever, ranging from 20 to 30% to the downside there. You know, it was, again, a 30% signal to the downside with that divergence. Here, what did we get? We got the same thing, right? Same divergence. We got a 30% correction to the downside. So if we get a much larger one like this, we get a second one coming up. Yeah, I'm going to have my concerns at that point because it's a very strong signal. It's a very strong reversal signal. And if we invalidate it, you know, if the RSI goes above overbought conditions, I'll be a full moon boy, because at that point I would think that there's a shit ton of buying pressure, a shit ton of strength in the market. It's more so that divergence that would give me a bearish gut feeling once again. Yeah, what else? Shorter time frames. So we're starting to get back above this box. So yeah, like I said, basically if we get back above this over here, my stop loss is just above 97K basically. Like I said, I don't have a ton of faith in my short. I took it because I had a gut feeling, but if we just keep getting back above this monthly order block box, then I'm just going to lose some faith in the setup is all. And like I said, midterm and long term, I'm very much on the fence right now. I know a lot of people have very strong opinions right now. Mine, full disclosure, I have very mixed feelings right now, but that's fine because I generally trade the 5 minute anyways, right? I don't really care where the market goes in the next several days because I'm probably going to, enter and exit several trades in the next couple of days. But what are some indicators showing? The Trendmaster indicator, we do have a sell signal. It's obviously a much higher sell signal. So if we break above this right now, get another buy signal, that could be showing some strength. At that point, if we do get a higher buy signal here, I would consider taking a hedge long as well and just keeping my stop loss below this structure here, basically. But let's see. Let's see what happens. AI charting tools. So yeah, we're starting to see demand come in. I'm actually going to get rid of this yellow box. It's annoying me. We do have some good demand below us, right? The fact that we set a little bit here, got some demand here, and as well we have this overlapping box down here. There is some nice support following the trend right now. So that's, again, I don't want to be too bearish right now because I do see reasons for people to be bullish right now. Another big one for me is the fact that the shorts, retail shorts, are still, that's the majority still. In my opinion, that's giving rocket fuel that we can continue going to the upside, because as long as retail is trying to short this is the first time, right? The whole, as we had this whole run to the downside for several months, retail was desperately trying to long every single dip along the way. And now that we get this bounce, this is the final time that they're like, okay, yeah, I'm going to start shorting now. Now after we had our 30% correction, I'm going to start shorting. That's obviously going to be quite painful. And as retail will continue shorting now because they feel like they missed this move, right? And as I was very clear about, I also missed a good chunk of this move as far as leverage trading. I still have my spot bags. I'm fine. But I wasn't trading the long side of this, but the difference is I don't feel FOMO about it. I'm not worried about it because I know I can just trade another day. I don't really care if I miss a setup because there's going to be 10 new setups tomorrow. I really don't care. But a lot of people, they get that feeling of, oh no, I missed out. I need to long into resistance and it needs to break out and go parabolic from here. And unfortunately, the market maker does not give a fuck about our opinions. Definitely not about our feelings. So that's the thing. Like, I do see these red flags, you guys, on the monthly and the weekly, but understand that the monthly and the weekly take a while to play out. Right? When I got very bearish around, well, actually at this level, I was starting to watch for this signal. When we got that signal and got this rejection with that divergence, that's where I got very openly bearish. And yeah, if we get the same kind of thing happening here, it's just kind of planning ahead for the same thing. It may not happen. The Wave Master, we do have this nice bullish pivot down here as well. Love to see that, right? That could be a great sign of strength right now. So yeah, I'll give credit where credit is due. My bear market may be over, right? The bear market that I was claiming we could be in, it may be over. We might go parabolic from here. I don't know. Nobody knows for sure. A lot of people act like they know for sure, but nobody knows for sure. Like I said, there's reasons for both, but just as we trade closer and closer to resistance, that's where I want to be cautious. Because if we break out, yeah, we could go on a straight up moon mission. But I don't want to trade based on, well, what if this happens? I would rather trade on, hey, this is what the chart currently has. And as we trade into resistance, I'm going to be looking for weakness, or we break out and then I start longing pullbacks, looking for Stuber fibs on shorter time frames. We break this level here, that's where I basically start trying to find those longs where I can catch a runner, right? I'll still be, basically the way I trade, I always start my trade as a scalp because like I said, I'm generally trading the 5 minute on higher leverage. So I treat most of my trades as a scalp to start, and then if half of it turns into a running position and turns into a nice swing trade, fantastic. Getting up into a little bit of a supply zone here on the 5 minute. Doesn't look like it's anything crazy, but you know, we are starting to trade into resistance is all. Actually, there we go. I just want to get this back here, just so I can watch the levels I was actually trading based on, basically. And let's get that back up here. Another reason why I want to be stopped out in a small profit if we break back above 97K is because looking at a shorter time frame like the 5 minute right here, we have this higher low signal right here, and notice we did break below it. So at that point, even though the indicator doesn't state it, I'm actually considering this my lower high right now. If I were to look for a Stuber fib on something like this, that would actually be the micro lower high. So we'd be looking at resistance, something like that. So just another reason, if we break above 97K, then it looks like the very micro trend is breaking. At that point, we're going to be retesting, you know, possibly up towards the high again. And if we are going to continue printing higher highs, I mean, this could just keep trending to the upside. So that's a risk I'm just not willing to take at this point. RSI, Wavemaster, they both have some room to go to the upside a little bit too. Looking for a potential bearish. Actually, you know what? There isn't an actual Stuber fib from here. That's not actually a fib. Oh, sorry. That is absolutely a fib. That is not an official Stuber fib. Like this one, like I was talking about, as far as the micro trend, I do consider one. But that bigger one, although you would think it would be stronger, I actually don't consider it that, because as far as the micro trend goes here, this would have been our high. This was my higher high. So let's just turn off the indicator, just because you're probably wondering, well, I'm not agreeing with it in this case. But here's my high. This is my higher high. This would be my confirmed higher low. So this, well, basically the price would have to get below this level here to break my structure on the 5 minute. If we want to look for support, you know, somewhere to start, well, notice where we ended up finding a little bit of support. Very, very close to the 786. Obviously, at this point, it's basically, as far as a scalp goes, it could have played out already. It hit the 0.5 fib, so that would be your first target. So, yeah, you know what? I missed that long scalp. Whatever. Such is life. But, yeah, as far as looking for a bearish Stuber, I would basically want to see the price get below this, and then we get some sort of a retest, something like that. Again, obviously theoretical, because this hasn't happened yet, but I'd be looking at something like that for a short, for a Stuber setup. Obviously, that is not why I am short currently, but yeah, honestly, if I had seen this earlier, I would be in a little bit of a short a little bit of a long from there, because actually it's hard to say. I always front run my fibs a little bit. It's hard to say if I would have ended up hitting that or not. Honestly, I can't tell you for sure, because I never ended up taking it anyways, right? But yeah, I would have been very interested in it, if nothing else, because that is just a typical Stuber setup. So if it's going to hit the next target, that would be up here at around 97,050, basically. 97,050 US dollars would be the 214 fib target. We will see. How's everyone else feeling about the market, by the way? Is anybody, do you think the top is in? Do you think it's do you think it's full parabolic run from here? Do you think that it's time to be cautious? Like, how is everyone feeling right now? Because honestly, like I've said several times, I'm a little bit on the fence as far as the mid to long term. I would say midterm. I would say midterm, I'm bullish. Long term, I'm bearish. Longer term, I'm extremely bullish. Like, as far as crypto as a whole, guys, I'm very bullish on crypto. I love crypto. I use it every day. I do tons of transactions with it. I trade it all the time. I love the volatility. I love the access to leverage. I love everything about crypto. But that doesn't mean that I'm blind towards possible getting blindsided, basically. Because understand, like, you see a lot of influencers and stuff will say, you know, all of this bullish stuff is happening and you're bearish right now. Understand that when the bull market peaks, it will be peak bullish hopium. You know, like, as you see, you know, all these things are happening. Okay, well, yeah, banks are getting involved, hedge funds, large investment firms. You know, if a bunch of companies start kind of copying Michael Saylor's approach, everybody wants to start strategic reserves, everybody wants to start borrowing to buy and all that sort of stuff. Yeah, it will feel extremely bullish, like it can never turn around, but that's exactly when it would happen. If anyone remembers last cycle with Celsius, Luna, all that kind of shit, everyone, you know, there was such large players getting involved that got totally fucked by that scenario. So, like, it wasn't just retail, it was very large investment firms and that sort of shit. And just understand that it seemed so bullish when all that was going on, and then that's when the market got blindsided. Uh, Adrian, 25% bullish. Yeah, I'm with you. I'm at the point where I'm willing to trade the bullish side, but I still have a nervous gut feeling, basically. But I've been at least willing to, you know, I have been spot buying a little bit again and stuff. Even playing with meme coins a little bit, which I'll take a look at a few of those in a little bit because there's some that I'm waiting for some interesting signals. Chaos on the fence, similar to me. From your experience, this feeling of uneasiness I have based on my trade journal is an indication to me that the markets are operating abnormally. Could be at that midpoint of major pivots, flip or fail. The move up has been too aggressive, in my opinion. Fast up equals fast down. That's very true. You know, the faster we just moon straight to the upside, that just means that you don't build a ton of structure on the way. And that's where, you know, if we start losing this support, I have to readjust these. Whoops. Basically, but let's just bring up my main fib. I can put the smaller one back on later. Yeah, I totally agree that, you know, if we start losing some of this support, you know, we lose this range support here, we don't have a ton of structure that formed on this leg to the upside, just like we didn't have a ton of structure on this leg here. Yeah, I guess a little bit, but especially this one, there was almost nothing there. And yeah, if we start losing important support levels, we have to assume that the floor would drop out just like we smashed through the ceiling here. You know, we would smash through the floor much the same, right? So that is something to watch for, especially, like I said, there's a lot of liquidity starting to form below us. Definitely something worth mentioning. But honestly, the one thing, and where is it? One thing that I will give to the bulls would be something like this. I know not everybody loves trend lines, but I do like that retest. You know, I can't deny that. That was a good retest that we broke above those highs. We end up flipping that resistance into support. That is a nice SR flip, and that's on a very large time frame. So again, I'll give credit where credit is due. That looks beautiful. It has a couple bullish things lining up with it. It's just like I said, as we trade towards resistance, there's going to be a moment of caution in there for me. But I would love for us to break out, you guys. Make no mistake, I want to be a moon boy. I want a parabolic run to the upside again. I would love that just like everybody else. It's just that I have those few things that just have me feeling a little bit uneasy about everything going on. Not sure if you need to get on the ADHD or ADHA meds, but I feel like the crypto purgatory. And yeah, I get it. Well, that's the thing, right? We are kind of in the middle of nowhere right now. When you really zoom out to the larger time frames, you know, we got above resistance. We are below, you know, right in the middle before the next level of very strong resistance, in my opinion. So we are kind of in the middle of a very large range right now. I just have a feeling with all these divergences and stuff, I don't know. I have, and with how the monthly looks, with losing that order block, getting that bearish cross on a momentum indicator, I don't know. I have a weird gut feeling that this is forming a distribution range, a very large distribution range. But we're going to have to see, right? We keep staircasing higher on the midterm timeframes, like the 4 hour. We keep setting new structure like this. I have no reason to flip bearish just because the longer time frame is saying bearish. Because if I'm correct about the longer time frame, and you know, with the monthly being bearish, with the weekly being bearish, if I'm right about that, well, when we start losing structure on the 4 hour, that's where I will think that, okay, now everything is lining up to the downside. Now it's looking very bad. But again, we still have some bullish setups from that. We'll still get bounces. In my opinion, that would be one of them. And that's, again, very theoretical at this point. That's only if we get down to that level. It does not have to happen. We still see a lot of strength from some indicators and stuff like that. So, like I said, I can't be too bearish right now. It's just I have some warnings on the old radar there is all. Reversal warning on that indicator. Point of control is significantly lower, just above 84K. Yeah. Adrian says, exactly, I noticed that as well. I missed the volume on some moves and feels like manipulation, as I don't like to use that farce. Yeah, and it could be. I guess we're just going to have to see what happens, right? At the end of the day, I mean, when you say it feels like manipulation, realistically, all price action is basically manipulated, right? You have market makers literally causing the direction of the market, so I would agree with you that it is manipulated. But, and another thing to consider actually from a bullish perspective, now that you say that, you know, as people pull crypto off exchanges and, you know, trade volume goes lower and all that sort of stuff, it does make it easier. You know, it's not so much that a bull market, and quite often it starts low volume. You don't need a ton of buying volume to cause a parabolic run, as long as you have less selling pressure, right? So if there's no sellers, and if people aren't willing to sell that much, and the odd person is willing to buy, I mean, that's going to drive the price up, right? Quite often, I mean, a bull market will run on low volume and get a bit of a supply shock, right? Just the fact that people aren't selling will drive the price up just as much as people buying will. These pushes up show huge vector candles, which is a lot of large price gaps with inefficiencies, which means someone is driving price higher to distribute higher and get the fuck out. That's a very good point too, right? The imbalances, as we get those big moves, especially, outside of stock market trading hours, we get a lot of large moves on the weekends. And, when we get those big price gaps, if there's a bunch of gaps down here, I know I don't follow CME gaps as much as a lot of people in here do. But, quite most of the time they fill. Not every single time, but most of the time they fill. So, yeah, that's a thing too, right? If someone's forcing the price higher so that they can get up into a distribution range, like I was talking about earlier. Yeah, I can see where you're going with that. Am I trading any other coins, and what's the process for screening the market for trades? Honestly, yes, I am trading some other coins. The last 2 weeks, I have really been slacking. I have not been looking at charts very much because I was busy doing last minute taxes and shit like that. But I've just been busy. Also, spring cleaning up the yard and stuff. Have not been trading as much as previously. But now that I have caught up on a bunch of stuff, I'm ready to attack a whole bunch of charts again. The last altcoin trade that I took would have been from my last stream. I know I mentioned this Stuber fib. At this point, it's obviously broken. Zeus, this one will look familiar to you if you are still in here. Oh, no, I guess not. But yeah, basically this was on the 5 minute, not the 4 hour like this. But this was a setup that we talked about last week in my Thursday evening live stream, and that did play out, right? We hit the first target, we hit the second target, we went a little bit lower, and then eventually we broke higher. So be it, right? The trade was beautiful. That's the last altcoin trade I took other than spot trading. I've been spot trading meme coins a little bit, specifically IQ 6900. Some of you guys may be familiar with this one. I talk about it in the micro chat a little bit. Guys, I want to be clear about something. The next couple coins I'm going to talk about have like a $2 million market cap, so understand they are complete gambles. I treat it just like being at the casino like I was a few hours ago, not putting in very serious position sizes. Because they are high risk, high reward, right? And honestly, if you are just market buying, market smashing thousands of dollars into these things, you're probably going to cause slippage on yourself. I don't know for sure. I don't know exactly what the volume is. But this is one that, you know what? We did get a nice Stuber fib here. I know a few months back, I ended up catching a massive run on this thing. So I'm willing to take a stab at it again because a lot of meme coins just kind of started breaking structure to the upside as Bitcoin started breaking structure to the upside. And honestly, even if Bitcoin has topped, again, guys, this is a very big if, but even if it has topped, I really think that it's not too far-fetched to expect some sort of an altcoin cycle or altcoin season. I don't know how long it would last, but often at the end of a bull market, you will see, if Bitcoin is crashing or just trending down and Ethereum and a bunch of altcoins start pumping, I will actually have very large concerns with the market because it seems like an exit pump to me. If, however, everything's trending to the upside together, Bitcoin and altcoins and everything, I think that shows a great deal of strength in the market. So two different ways that things could play out here. But yeah, so IQ 6900, this is one. I bought some more last night off the Stuber fib here. Another interesting one here, guys. Actually, let me bring up Trendmaster. Oh yeah, that was another thing. We had these buy signals. It looked like we were basically forming a bit of a rounding bottom, because we had a very strong trend of lower trending sell signals, right from where this topped out. Basically sell signal, lower sell, lower sell, lower sell, lower sell. And before I was talking about the structure, like with Bitcoin, if we ended up printing a higher buy, it is pumping a little bit. But basically just looking at the structure as we set lower sell signals, right? Here's a lower sell signal. Okay, I'm going to set resistance at the pivot point on that sell signal, right? Then we get a lower sell signal. Okay, where's our new pivot point? It was here. A lower sell signal. Where was our next pivot? It was down here. Another lower sell signal. Where's our next pivot? Down here. And notice what happened is we did actually end up breaking that trend. Now we have a higher sell signal. So that was another thing that just led me to be a little bit bullish on this. And obviously with meme coins, anything can happen, you guys. And especially if Bitcoin ends up facing resistance and getting rejected. I mean, these things could just absolutely nuke again. But those are some signs of strength that I was seeing as we were trading near support there. So that's what I am seeing on IQ 6900. Coin I do want to talk to as well to you about as well. I will look at a couple things. I see you guys commenting a few recommendations as well. I will take a look at those. Soul. On the 4 hour, we have a nice series of higher highs printing. And as well, we had that same thing with the Trend Master, right? As I've caught over a 10x on this thing. I bought a small bag. On the 4 hour, we ended up getting a higher buy signal. And from there, we basically ended up getting 1100% pump to the upside pretty much. Just over 1,000. And I mean, that was a huge move. And especially when you look at these low cap meme coins and low cap coins in general, these signals on the Trendmaster, when you notice which way they're trending on the 4 hour and the daily, can be absolutely massive signals. So right now we do have a sell signal on the 4 hour, but one thing to consider with that is obviously we have this higher low here with a higher high up here. So if I pull a fib, something like this, notice that we are starting to get very close to some potential support there. So I would love, one thing I would love to see is, again, invalidating this sell signal and setting a higher buy signal. That would be huge. The daily chart, this is an interesting one because we have flipped this line. There has been no signals. There hasn't been enough data on the Trendmaster yet on the daily chart of this shitcoin. But we have flipped that blue line from a sell, basically resistance, to now support. So if we can get a daily buy signal, the first one ever in this coin's history, I have a feeling that it'll get a nice pump from that. Again, don't be stupid. These are meme coins. They're low cap. They're low volume. They are what they are. They're a total gamble if you ask me. But that is something that I'm looking for as far as small caps. Please tell me you've been trading some Fartcoin. I haven't traded Fartcoin in a couple weeks. I was trading it with leverage a little bit a couple weeks ago. Are you trading it? Do you want me to look at it? This is the 4 hour chart. What do we got here? Trendmaster holding a beautiful buy trend there. Yeah. So basically same thing, right? If you looked for the same thing when it got a higher buy signal on the 4 hour, just look at that. Would you just look at it? We ended up pumping, 170% or so. So that's one thing with, especially with spot trading. I mean, I know I'm always talking about high leverage trading and stuff, but I do some spot trading with higher leverage altcoins and stuff like that as well, you guys. Or if I just want to accumulate more for free, right? Rather than having to buy on dips. Sometimes it's like, hey, I got a bearish Stuber here. I'll sell some of my position. And then if it ends up dropping, I'll buy extra back for free, basically. But these signals on the Trendmaster, I love looking on the 4 hour, the daily, when you notice which way those signals are trending. That can be a very powerful signal there. Inge, I will look at Inge. 4 hour. This is a messy one. This is a messy one. I have mixed feelings about this at a very quick glance here. Oh boy, apparently I was looking at it back here. I would like to say this is our low, lower, low, lower high, and looks like a Stuber fib rejection. I agree with all of that. My concern with this is that technically we did set a slightly lower low, which would have confirmed this as our lower high, lower low. This would be our lower high then. I know that's very micro analyzing, you guys, but it is what it is. There is a little bit of a warning there, and notice what happened after we broke that level. We have retested it as support a couple times. So yeah, it doesn't, I mean, we're coming up towards a level of resistance. There's no arguing that. But as far as an actual Stuber fib setup like this, I don't actually agree with that. But that doesn't mean that, you know, everyone has their own reasons for shorting things or longing things, right? Depending how you're looking at this. But just how as soon as I opened it, I was like, oh, that's in a Stuber fib for sure. But then as I zoom in, well, there's a little bit of some messy structure in there. ALGO Master actually has a bullish one pulled from right here. I don't know if I agree with that. That seems higher risk to me. See, what's the 1 minute looking like? Trendmaster. I actually want to delete my own drawings. We'll just check some indicators. So we did break these lower sell signals and lower buy signals as well. The fact that we broke above this very slightly. Yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, we did break this lower sell signal here. So that's already a little bit of a sign of strength for this downtrend that tried to start. As well, let's just say from a naked chart point of view, we have that same thing here, hey? We did technically get very, very slightly lower, but even if you want to consider that, let's just pretend that never happened and you wanted this as the lower high, we've obviously broke that as well. So yeah, even though we could pull back, technically I don't have a lot of faith in a downtrend right there. There was a swing fail, I will say. You know, the fact that we ended up retesting that level, just closing below it, looking like a little bit of rejection. But yeah, I don't know how I feel about that. A lot of mixed signals. Wave Master, bearish pivot. I guess there could be a short setup for a tight invalidation. Let's say even put a trend line, something like that, so that if we break above that, basically it would be invalidated. I'm personally not willing to take the short, just nothing's really aggressively jumping out at me. Oh, I have a whole bunch of chat to catch up on here. Be patient with me, you guys. I can barely read, so just kidding. Cause listening on mobile, welcome, good to see you in here. DJanette in the house. Okay, crackers, but how do you go at finding this coin to trade? You just do manual screening of the market. You just hear about them. What's your screening process? Yeah, just over time, I hear them, see people post charts about them, just see you guys in the Discord mention things and just kind of putting things on my radar. And then, yeah, basically they end up on my trading view list and then I just kind of keep tabs. But yeah, very much I'm just manually screening for things. Most of the trading I do is on Bitcoin. The way I see it, if I wanted to trade altcoins as well, I can just basically trade Bitcoin with more leverage because altcoins basically do the same thing, but on steroids. But if, let's say, you're in a position and you don't want to affect your average entry, you don't have another account, whatever, then at that point it's like, hey, I feel like things are bearish right now or bullish right now. I don't want to affect the trade that I'm already in, so I'm going to go and look for a trade on something for a similar setup, basically. But yeah, just manually screening for what I am trading. But also, I even as far as Bitcoin, like with not wanting to ruin, like I said, ruining positions and that sort of thing. I mean, that's why I have multiple accounts. That's why I trade on 3 or 4 different, 3 accounts mainly. As far as leverage, I have more accounts that spot trading and stuff, obviously, but yeah, that's another part of it, right? Is I can enter more positions, or if something goes down, if something's under maintenance and you see something in the charts and you can't get to it, a lot of people would just like to blame the exchange, but you're also not setting yourself up to be ready for that sort of a thing. The way I see it, especially in crypto, you guys always plan for the worst case scenario. That's why I don't keep all my stuff in one place. I trade on multiple accounts. Just always plan for worst case scenario. It's the same reason why I use isolated leverage, is because worst case scenario is not necessarily your stop loss, because with big slippage on certain altcoins, it happens on altcoins a lot where you get slippage, and you could, if you're on cross leverage, for example, you could really go screw yourself over. Whereas with isolated, I find that, hey, worst case, whatever my isolated amount is, that's what's going. Chaos, that is a great ticker. Ass Soul. Yeah. How can you not buy some, right? Ass Soul and Fartcoin have been working together. Oh, absolutely. Fartcoin is coming close to its macro 786-886 rejection zone. Something to keep an eye on. Could time nicely with BTC topping as well. Interesting. Fartcoin. I want to go to the oldest chart it's got. Let's go to the daily. You are correct, sir. We are getting there. Still have some room to go. And who knows? Maybe it goes nuts and just smashes all-time highs. Who knows? But yeah, the macro Stuber fib. Yeah, that would be a ways away yet. Basically an 85% move to the upside from here yet. So who knows? We'll have to see what happens. That's not one that I hold. I trade at the odd time because I know it's volatile and whatnot, and actually has good volume and stuff. Inge was a pain in the neck weeks ago in Asia. I don't really follow that one too closely. When I say multiple accounts, do I mean sub accounts? I mean just multiple accounts, multiple exchanges, DeFi trading, straight off wallets, all of it. All the things, the stuff and the things. Oh, did notice where that hit to? Perfectly that Stuber fib target. I wonder if that hit the stop on all of my positions or not. Let me just check something. Hype I looked at already, didn't I? Oh, I guess I just showed it, but I never really analyzed it much. There's probably an older chart. Sorry, Chaos. I'm just looking at your post there on Fartcoin. Yeah, Binance looks different. What was the top there? I feel like Binance doesn't have all of the price action. Sorry, let me bring that up again before I get into hype. 5 minute. That's not what I want. $273. What did yours get up to? Oh yeah, yeah, it looks very similar. You might be on logarithmic, maybe. Yeah, either way. Hype. Yes, hype. Let's look at the 4 hour. Looking a little rejecty. Like it's looking a little bit like a swing fail there. But again, that's a tough one. It's still technically an uptrend, right? Because we have high, higher, low. That's a tough one. What are the indicators saying on the 4 hour? Still have a buy trend, but obviously we could come back down a little bit. Yeah, the trend on the 4 hour is obviously to the upside, just like most things right now, right? What is... Wavemaster is starting to look a little bit overbought, but it also looked that way back here and here and here. Shorter time frame. Let's check a 1 hour. Holding the buy trend here quite nicely. If I look for a Stuber fib, something like that. Well, actually, yeah, we got very close to that, obviously. Love to see when that buy trend lines up with the 786. I've actually pointed that out on like 3 different things, I think, this stream now. But yeah, that's beautiful confluence to have. Let's look. Hype on the 5 minute. Yeah, it kind of looks like we're going to get a higher buy signal again soon. Yeah, hype doesn't look too bad yet. This structure even holds true on the 5 minute, you guys. The same fib. Because we have this high, higher high. That would be our confirmed higher low. Notice when we broke above this red line here, this lower high, or this higher high rather, notice we never got any pauses, any consolidation, nothing, just a straight shot to the upside. So technically there wasn't another structure break in this area. So this range still holds true in my opinion, both on the 5 minute and the 1 hour. Looks like it got front run. But yeah, it's still a nice healthy uptrend no matter how I look at it basically. Hype is still looking okay. Weekly, I don't need to look at the weekly. What's the 1 minute saying? Yeah, let's get into the 1 minute. Oh boy, that looks that looks rough. 5 minute it is. Yeah, doesn't look too bad yet. RSI has a little bit of room to the upside. What's this micro? As far as the micro trend goes, no, that's kind of messy. As far as the micro trend goes, we could look at that kind of a bear setup. We're getting very close to a Stuber fib then if we pull it from this lower high. One reason why I don't necessarily trust that right now, fuck, that's tempting. But just how we're getting these overlapping demand zones here. That's looking like there's a lot of buying strength down there. We are getting up towards resistance. There's no doubting it on the lower time frames like that, but there is some nice support below, so I don't know how I feel about shorting something like that. Yeah, chaos, exactly. With Fartcoin, it is it has the liquidity to take bigger positions with minimal slippage. As a meme coin, it actually has high trading volume and a decent market cap and stuff. On hype, Adrian figures go to the higher resistance pocket around 23. Let's check the 1 hour. Would that be... Oh boy, there is a lot of big supply zone up here, kind of starting around just below 26. I could see us getting up there. I know you said 23, but actually, I want that back up. Same with the 4 hour, basically where we started this little downtrend here. Notice the Stuber fib starts to line up fairly close to there. Basically starts around 24.30. And then there's obviously some heavy resistance right up to this high around 28, call it 28.38. But yeah, it's still got a nice trend, right? Printing higher high, higher lows, still trending to the upside, even on the shorter time frames. So yeah, hype's still looking okay to me. I am curious to see if this gets some sort of a scalp setup, but I'm not taking it. Crypto Poly, welcome. Just came in shortly, gearing up for 98K, and see what happens there. Funding rate very negative. Shorts are smashing the red button. Yeah, the only concern I have right now is technically the bullish Stuber on the 5 minute already played out. And the fact that it got rejected right at the target perfectly there, that might be the move from this little downtrend. But we are still also, we have not dropped and got aggressive selling in that monthly box, right? The one that order block that I've been talking about. Still fighting right with the top of it. If it's anything like last market cycle, we could still just test around these levels even a little higher and then get absolutely shit on, but we're gonna have to see. So far we're not seeing any signs of major rejections on any midterm time frames or anything. Yeah, guys, like I said earlier, as far as swing setups go, I personally think this is a no trade zone. I'm okay scalping either direction at this point and just, you know, as always, hoping to catch half of a running position or whatever. But yeah, I see reasons for both. I do not feel excessively bullish. I'm not a moon boy. I don't have my astronaut suit on, but I also took off the bear skin rug that I was wearing around for months. Stuber is in hibernation. Yeah, we'll see if we can end up setting a new high here. If we can take out this high and do something like so, I would love to look for some sort of a pullback like this, to look for a scalp long, and again, hopefully it turns into a runner from there. But at that point, basically, I would be looking at this sort of structure, and that's only if we get this break, right? We would have this high, higher high, confirmed higher low. So I'd be looking at pulling a fib, something like this. It's just theoretical at this point. It's not actually there. We'll see what happens with structure, but that's the next bullish setup that I'd be looking for, basically. Something just similar to what just happened here. 786, 214. Classic. Actually, now this isn't actually a Stuber fib like I talked about earlier, but it is still resistance. The Chicago Bull in the hot tub. Cause on the fence, daily needs to break a little more. Let's, that's a time frame I don't look at very much, is the daily. I probably should. We have a actually, let me erase all of my drawings. So you know what? I'll give credit where credit is due. Once again, we have a much higher buy signal here. So even if we pulled back a little bit, that's a nice trend. I can't really ignore that either, right? That's a very strong point for the bulls, in my opinion. Got a higher sell signal and a higher buy signal. So that's pretty nice. Obviously, we broke that same structure that would have been on the 4 hour. So that's lining up with support of this trend line right now. The one difference is the daily does have a Stuber fib. Which ranges from 102 to 105. Call it even 106K. Very serious resistance up there, in my opinion. Just like I went over on the weekly, the monthly, we're just kind of at an interesting place in the market. It's time to be cautious, if you ask me. I don't know, maybe unless you have your own back-tested strategy where you know exactly where this is heading and you are very confident in taking your positions, that's fine. I just have my issues of trying to catch a swing long as we get closer and closer into resistance. I will scalp along, and if I catch a runner at that point, great. But, being that I missed the bigger swing from down here, I wouldn't even say missed, because I was just very vocal about how I was looking at playing it. I was waiting for this lower high trend to break, and from there looking for pullbacks. But we'll see if it happens or not, right? Thoughts on Pith? Pith? I'll check it out. Do I have it? I do have it on BloFin. Interesting. There it is again. See, again, when I talk about these trending signals on the Trendmaster indicator, notice lower sell signals, beautiful short opportunities. But we did break this trend, right? Our lower sell signal. So here's our sell. I'm going to go, where did we pivot from there? There was our resistance. We ended up breaking that, right? And on top of that, getting higher trending buy signals. Just a bit of a warning that the momentum may be shifting. So, I mean, you look at where we went from there, and easy 20% to the upside. Beautiful signal there. So it's nice to see that currently we are basically trading along support of that line. It's nice to see that we have some of that. ALGO Masters showing us a nice big Stuber fib. If we do end up pulling back, that's one of those cases of, I don't know if it's necessarily going to happen, but if it does, might be a nice buy level there. Liquidations, there is a lot of liquidations starting to form below us, so maybe that theory makes sense. That's actually not even down at the 786, so yeah, we'll see. AI charting tools. We are coming up to this supply zone right away, but again, things don't look too bad. Nothing's jumping out at me really aggressively that I'm confident about something here. What else? What else? What can I find here? There might be a bearish one here. Technically, it could be a smaller one, something like this, which we're currently testing, just because on the micro trend we have this low, lower, low, lower, high. So technically we're at resistance right now. Just something to consider with that is even if that gets invalidated up above the 115, then obviously we're just in the next level of resistance. So you may as well just pull a bigger fib, something like this. And again, depending what the market does, if Bitcoin decides to blast through resistance, I mean, this market might get very, very excited very quickly. So we're going to have to see. Yeah, get the DGNet back in the house. Any thoughts on the legacy markets on the higher time frames? Not really. I haven't really been following them too closely. We're not bullish enough. This is October, November 2024 on repeat. Accelerating soon. October, November 2024. Like this run we had to the upside here. Here is my thoughts with that, because I know a lot of people think that this feels very similar to this just because it's been, you know, it's that several month consolidation and that sort of thing. Understand that the market structure is significantly different. Especially when we zoom out to the monthly time frame. We did not lose any sort of monthly order block at these levels because the block would have been way down here. Whereas here we did lose a monthly order block. As well with the Wave Master indicator, which is a momentum indicator, it had not crossed at this point. There was not a bearish cross. It found support off itself. Whereas now we have a confirmed bearish cross just over a month ago. So although it feels the same, and it could play out the same, I want to be clear about that. We can absolutely blast off from here, but the structure is significantly different than it was at those levels. Have yourself a fantastic rest of the week, Cause. I'll be wrapping up here shortly as well. Thanks for coming. But yeah, honestly, I see reasons for both. It's really the monthly chart that I have my large concerns with, because it's hard to switch the momentum of a monthly chart. And the fact that like those order blocks we look at on the 4 hour and the 5 minute and stuff, they're happening all the time, you guys. Every single time the monthly has had one, it has been a complete reversal. And that goes for both directions, not just screaming for the bearish side of things. The 3 times that we have had this on the bullish side, it has been parabolic, right? Oh, sorry, not that one. This block, retested it here perfectly, parabolic. The only other time we've seen one on the bearish side in over 10 years was last cycle. That's where we had this block here, and we flipped that support into resistance, just like the level we're at right now, right? So yeah, we could break out, but we are testing a very, very serious support resist flip area. And with a bearish momentum cross on a monthly time frame as confluence with that, and the weekly chart being, it actually broke below with candle bodies, a whole bunch of candle bodies below that range. That was a serious structure break on the weekly as well. If that weekly, if we get another overextended divergence, something like that, as the price gets into resistance and we get that same divergence that I have backtested 3 years of market structure data on the weekly, the daily, and the 4-hour time frame with an 87% hit rate on being reversals. If we get that lining up, I am going to have very serious concerns with the market again. The same signal that happened back here on a much larger scale. The same one that we had here as well. Which, to be fair, yeah, you're right. We did end up going back to the upside, but that did call a 30% correction. This one called a 30% correction. If we get a much larger one, we're going to have to see what happens, because we have seen those much larger ones before that have led to 80% corrections. 30% is basically the minimum that these signals on the weekly like to play out. Actually, yeah, that was like a 78-80% correction on that one. So we'll have to see. It doesn't have to play out the same. And honestly, guys, like I said at the start of the video, this is theoretical at this point. It will probably be in 2 or 3 weeks that we even see if that's happening. Because if the price just ends up blasting through resistance before this gets up here, well, then it's not lining up that way. Just like if we get up towards resistance, but the RSI just shoots into overbought conditions, I don't have that same feeling. It's something specific that has to line up, because that's exactly what I've back tested. And that way I can keep my emotions at bay. I don't care what's being tweeted. I don't care what's being talked about. I don't care about speeches. I don't care what the rest of the world is saying. If we get that setup that I have an 87% hit rate with, if that happens again on the weekly, sorry, I'm going to be full-blown bear again. That's just how it is. But it's theoretical at this time. Yeah, honestly, I'd be curious to check out some other charts on the monthly. I'm not going to right now just because we've been going for an hour and a half here. But like even gold, for example, I would love to check that. I might do that after the stream or just later tonight. I'm hungry. I might go eat soon. Yeah, or the NASDAQ, the S&P 500, the QQQ, anything like that. I really should. Yeah, it's something we'll check next week if it catches my attention when I check it out one of these days here. Anyways, legends, I think that's about all I wanted to go over today. So hopefully you guys found this stream useful. Also, for those of you who are watching this on my YouTube channel a little later, if you want access to the MDX ALGO indicators and Discord, there's a link in the description down below. I've also got a fairly new private Telegram channel where I share some of my trade ideas, scalp setups, Stuber fib levels, my general thoughts on the market, a place to kind of keep all my thoughts together. It's completely free for people who trade on BloFin using my new sign up link, and that as well as the steps to join are in the description down below. With that, I'm out. Stay safe, my friends. Peace.